right now you are trying to get your credit fixed, or maybe you want to start the process of getting your credit fixed, and you're at the same time trying to figure out how all this works. What is a credit report? What is a credit score? How is it calculated? What information is on it? And you're just researching and researching all this information online, feeling overwhelmed and frustrated, then you definitely want to keep watching this video, because I'm going to be going over all the most common myths, credit myths out there that you should be on the lookout for. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Jamie, a business startup and financial coach, helping hundreds of aspiring entrepreneurs start and build and automate their online business while also keeping their finances on track. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest videos, make sure to hit the bell to be notified when I post a video every week. I've learned throughout the years that credit is power, specifically if you live in the United States. I mean, we need credit for literally everything. You want to buy a house, you will need credit. You want to get a new car, you will need credit. You want to get money for your new business because you want to do a large investment or even a small investment, whether that's $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 that you are trying to get as a loan for your new business, you need credit. So credit is needed, and it's very important for all of us to always keep track of our finances and stay on top of our credit score and credit history and availability. But in order to do that, we need to know what's true and not true, specifically because there's so much information on the internet, and you want to make sure that you are not getting confused by doing the things that you shouldn't be doing or believing the things that you shouldn't be believing. So let's dive into myth number one when it comes to credit. The very first myth is that if you make a lot of money, then this is going to help your credit report and credit score. And this is not true, because your income has nothing to do with your credit report or your credit score. When you apply for a loan, a personal loan, a mortgage, a car loan, a credit card, they're actually looking at two things. They're looking at your credit score, and if you have a bad credit score or a poor credit score, then you're probably not going to be approved, or if you are approved, then you're going to get a really high interest rate. And then your income comes in because they want to make sure that you're going to be making the payments responsibly, meaning you have income coming in every month, so it shouldn't be a problem for you to stay consistent with those payments. But if your credit score is very poor, then you probably won't be approved. So your income doesn't really matter. It only matters in that specific part of the process of the application process. Even when you apply for a credit card, one of the questions might be, what is your current income? Who is your current employer? Or how much money do you make a year? Because they only want to know this to make sure that you're going to be making payments, and they don't have to later on, go after you or place this account into a collections account. But just based on your income, the decision is not made if you are approved or not approved. You have to have both. You have to have a good credit score, and you have to have some sort of income coming in every month, whether that's a part-time job or whether that's a full-time job or having your own business. Whatever income it is that you have, they need to know, because that's how they're going to secure that you're going to make those payments every single month. The next myth is that your credit report and your credit score is going to be the same across all credit bureaus. And this is not true, because reporting accounts is a voluntary act, meaning that lenders don't have to report it to the credit bureaus, and sometimes they don't report it to all three. So for example, let's say you go apply for a car loan today. Well, that loan might only be reported to, let's say, Equifax and TransUnion, and it might not be reported to Experian. So therefore, your credit score is not going to be the same across all of them. You might have a 750 credit score with TransUnion and Equifax, and then you might have a 650 with Experian. So it really all depends on which accounts are being reported. And this is why it's extremely important for you to always be checking your credit report and making sure that there aren't any incorrect information on there, and making sure as well that when you do apply for loans and things like that, that they're reporting the correct information to the credit bureaus. Another thing that is not going to be consistent is inquiries. So every time you apply for credit, your credit report needs to be pulled. Sometimes lenders will not report the inquiry to all 3 credit bureaus. So that is why sometimes you will see, let's say, 4 inquiries on Equifax and TransUnion, but you will only see 3 inquiries on Experian. And that is because of the lender. The lender did not take the time, or they just didn't want to report it to all 3 credit bureaus. So therefore, your information is not going to be the same. I have so many clients that come to us for credit restoration, and they're like, well, my credit says it's 750, but then when I checked again on Experian, it's like 600. And this is the reason, because most credit lenders do not take the time to report it to all 3 credit bureaus, and that's why it's not consistent. The next credit myth is that if you have poor credit, then it's going to be on your credit report for 7 years. This is not true, because your credit score and your credit report is all based on your current credit information, meaning now. So let's say today you have a credit score of 750, but then next month, all of a sudden you have a collections account on your credit report. Well, your credit score is no longer going to be 750. It's probably going to be in the 650s, right? Because every time you make a late payment, it goes down from 50 to 100 points. Imagine every time you have a collections account, it definitely goes down. So your credit score can vary month to month depending on if you are getting new negative accounts or if you are in the process of getting those accounts removed. If you are in the process of those accounts being removed, then obviously your credit is going to go up. So with this being said, it does not stay on your credit report for 7 years. The next credit myth is that debit cards will help your credit report and credit score. This is not true, because a debit card, it's simply access to your money in your bank. It's your money. It's not a loan. It's not that you have to pay it back. It's literally money that is yours sitting in a bank account, and the bank gives you a debit card so you can access it. Where the confusion comes in is that most debit cards will have a Visa or a MasterCard logo, exactly like credit cards. So a lot of people think that sometimes they work the same, but they absolutely do not. Just think of it like if you have an overdraft in your checkings account, you're going to be charged by the bank. You're using more than what you have. Versus having a credit card, you're most likely not going to have an overdraft, because if the bank is giving you only $1,000, I mean, you can't really go over the limit. They put the limit, and that's it. When you have used all that money, then you can't use any more of it. So there is a huge difference, but debit cards do not help your credit score whatsoever. The next credit myth is that if you pay off your late payments and collection accounts, then that's going to be removed from your credit report and it's going to give you a credit increase. And this is not true, because what happens is that once an account is placed in a collections account, then even if you pay that account, it's not going to do anything. They're not going to come and congratulate you and say, yes, you have paid it off. Let us remove it from your credit report. That is not going to happen. What's going to happen is going to just say paid off or paid entirely or paid off balance, and it's going to remain on your credit report, meaning that you're not going to get an increase. And make sure to watch this video right here where I go more in detail about what is a collection account and what to do once a account has been placed in a collections account. So with this being said, even if you pay off the account, it's not going to make a difference. Obviously, that would be the responsible thing to do, because let's say you went on a shopping spree and you spent $1,000. Well, you spent that money. You have those clothes, and you were the person that, applied for that loan and used that credit card or whatever it was. So the responsible thing to do is to pay them back because you used that money. But if the account has already been placed in a collection account, then they're not going to remove it. They're not going to report it to the credit bureaus as a deleted account. So that's when now you have to work with someone and dispute these negative accounts and these collections off your credit report so they can legally be legally and permanently be removed off your credit, and then that's when you can see a credit increase. Let me know in the comments if this video has been helpful so far. Also, if you are in the process of getting your credit fixed because you are planning to purchase a home or just work on your finances in general, but you need more support and guidance, make sure that you check the link in the description where you can book a free 15-minute call with us, and we can take a look and do a detailed analysis of your credit report, and that way we can let you know how we can help you. Or if you're just looking to start an online business while also keeping your finances on track, we can also help you do that. The next credit myth is canceling credit cards to increase your credit score. This is not true. Creditors want to see that you have at least 2 to 3 pieces of active credit because they want to make sure that you can handle and manage debt responsibly. So what you want to have is at least 70% of credit availability. And if you start canceling out credit cards, you're going to send a negative message to these creditors. You're going to give them a message saying, I can't handle these credit cards, I can't handle this debt, and I need to cancel them. So what I suggest you to do instead is not to use them. If you don't need a credit card, just don't use it. Or if you really need to cancel that credit card, then what you want to do is make sure that that credit card has a shorter credit history. So meaning, let's say you have 2 credit cards. You have one from Capital One, one from Chase, let's say. You want to make sure that the one with the longer and the oldest credit history is the one that you're going to stay with, because old credit history is the best credit history. So if you have to choose the credit card that you only have maybe a year versus the other credit card that you have maybe 5-10 years. The next myth is that your credit scores are locked in for 6 months. And this is relatively close to the other myth that I mentioned earlier in this video about your credit score being affecting you for 7 years. And that is not true. Your credit score is forever changing. And like I mentioned before, if you have a 750 credit score today and then next month all of a sudden you have 5 late payments, you have 2 negative accounts, you have 2 collections, you have, all these different things, then obviously your credit score is now going to change again. So from month to month, sometimes your credit score might change, or maybe if everything is on the right track, if you have an excellent credit score, you're paying everything on time, you're not opening new lines of credit, then it might stay the same. So it will definitely not be locked in for 6 months because it's always changing depending on your situation, of course. And the last myth is that if you're paying your bills on time, that you don't have to check your credit report because you don't think it's necessary. Well, this is not true. It has been calculated that 80% of all credit reports have erroneous information going from the wrong date of birth to accounts that you have never even applied for. So it's extremely important, and I advise you, if you're watching this video today and if you have stayed till the end, that you check your credit report consistently. Okay, because you want to make sure that the things that you are applying for, you're getting the credit. If you have loans, if you have mortgage, if you have a car loan, if you have a personal loan, if you have credit cards that you have been making consistent and on-time payments, you want to get credit for that because that is what's going to build your credit history. And remember, you want to have at least a 70% availability of credit reporting on your credit report. So it's really important that you're always checking as well, because you might have accounts on there that are not even yours, but it's reflecting negatively on your credit report and it's affecting your credit score. So make sure that you're reviewing and keeping track of everything that is listed and all of the information that the credit bureaus have of you. So any wrong date of birth, any wrong addresses, any wrong employers, any wrong accounts, this is all considered erroneous information, and you can absolutely dispute all these things to have it removed off your credit report. So with this being said, make sure you always check your credit report and stay on track. If you like this video, make sure that you hit the like bell and subscribe. I hope you guys have an amazing, blessed day and rest of the week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.